Today, we're going to talk about a really profound shift happening in China's Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region. For a long time, this place was seen as a kind of blueprint for ethnic policy. But now, well, that blueprint is being totally rewritten.
You see, ever since it was founded, way back in 1947, Inner Mongolia was always held up as a major success story. It was the prime example of how an ethnic minority region could thrive and keep its unique culture, all within the People's Republic of China. And for decades, it seemed like that model was working.
But then, in the summer of 2020, that whole image of quiet stability just shattered. All of a sudden, widespread demonstrations, the biggest the region had seen since the 80s, erupted everywhere. Parents, students, even herders, they all took to the streets, sending a clear signal that the old arrangement was falling apart.
So what happened? What was the trigger that turned China's so-called model region into a hotbed of protest? Okay, let's dive in and unpack this.
The immediate spark, the thing that lit the fuse, was a change that happened in the classroom. A brand new education policy rolled out in 2020 became the flashpoint for all these tensions over cultural identity that had been simmering just below the surface for years.
So here's what the policy actually did. It was really specific. It said that in schools that had always taught in the Mongolian language, 3 really important subjects, history, politics, and literature, would now have to be taught in Mandarin Chinese, using national textbooks. And you have to understand, for many ethnic Mongolians, this was way more than just a change in the curriculum. This felt like an existential threat. They saw it as a calculated move to sideline their mother tongue, which is pretty much the foundation of their entire cultural identity, especially in a region where they're already a minority. But here's the thing. This fight over textbooks didn't just pop up out of nowhere. No, it's the direct result of a much bigger ideological shift happening in Beijing, a shift that's changing China's entire game plan for its ethnic minorities.
To really get what's happening, you have to understand this big shift in thinking. For a long time, China followed a model kind of inspired by the Soviet Union, creating these autonomous regions to manage diversity. But now, a new way of thinking, called the second-generation ethnic policy, is taking over. This new idea argues you should move away from recognizing separate groups and instead create one big unified national culture, a melting pot, if you will, all in the name of stability.
And the ultimate end goal of this whole new policy is something called the Zhonghua Minzu. It's this idea of a single overarching Chinese nation, an identity that's meant to rise above all 56 official ethnic groups and basically blend them all into one.
And this really gets to the heart of it. If you look at the thinkers behind this new policy, people like Hu Angang and Hu Lianhe, they're pretty clear about the endgame. The focus is squarely on integration. The goal is to absorb minority groups into the broader Han-dominated society.
Okay, so we've got the ideology, but that's only one piece of the puzzle. To really understand the shift in Inner Mongolia, you have to look at 2 other massive forces that have been shaping the region for more than a century: demographics and natural resources.
First, let's just talk about the people. The demographic situation today is, well, it's pretty stark. Ethnic Mongols are a small minority in their own autonomous region. They're outnumbered by Han Chinese almost 5-to-1.
And look, this didn't happen by accident. It's the direct result of decades of state-backed migration of Han Chinese into the region. It was so controversial that it led to huge student protests way back in 1981, and yet, for the decades after that, things were mostly quiet. And that created what some people call the model minority paradox, this deep tension hidden just under a surface of economic growth.
So you have this demographic pressure, this whole political context, but there's something else, something huge that makes this particular piece of land so incredibly important to China's future. And the answer, literally, is buried in the ground. An unbelievable 83% of China's entire supply of rare earth elements. These are the minerals that make all of our modern tech possible, are packed into one single mining district in Inner Mongolia.
And we're not just talking about any deposit. This is the big one. It's believed to be the largest on the entire planet. These minerals are the lifeblood of, everything. Electric cars, smartphones, advanced weapon systems. On top of that, you have massive coal and steel production. So you start to see that Inner Mongolia is absolutely critical to China's economy and its push to become technologically independent.
Okay, so let's put all the pieces together. How do language policy, national identity,
demographics, and economics all fit together to tell the story of what's happening right now.
When you step back, you can see this clear three-step logic at play from Beijing's perspective. Step 1. Secure the resources. You absolutely have to control the rare earths and the coal. They're vital. Step 2. Use the demographic situation to your advantage. With a huge Han majority, you can push through new policies with what you probably figure is manageable resistance. And finally, Step 3. Bring in the ideology. This new vision of a unified Zhonghua Minzu gives you the perfect justification for cultural assimilation, framing it as a necessary step for a stronger nation.
And this whole story, it didn't happen overnight. You can actually trace the path. It starts way back in 1947 with this shiny promise of a model autonomous region. Then by 1981, you see the first real cracks appear with those protests over migration. Fast forward to the 2010s, and the intellectual game plan for assimilation really starts to take shape. And then you get to 2020, the breaking point, when that new blueprint is finally put into action in the schools. So what does it all mean? It means we're watching that model minority paradox completely unravel in real time. For decades, the unspoken deal was basically economic growth and some cultural space in return for stability. That deal is now off the table. The old promise of autonomy is being pushed aside by what Beijing sees as much more important national goals: locking down critical resources and building one single unified Chinese identity.
And that leaves us with a final, really big question to think about. As Beijing continues to redraw the lines between the central government and its regions, what does the word autonomy even mean anymore for a place like Inner Mongolia?